Hello, everyone. My name is Belinda, and I am the Vice Chair for the Communications Committee. Welcome to our third series here for Hispanic Heritage Month. Today we have two wonderful members of our community to talk to us a little bit about their journey through campus recreation. So I'll let them introduce themselves. So Armando, would you like to start?
Sure. Armando Espinoza, Assistant Director of Intramural Sports at Kansas State University. I've been here since 2008, so quite a while. Originally, I am from Dallas, Texas. I went to the University of Texas in Austin and graduate school at the University of Arkansas. And my start actually started in intramural world by pure dumb luck. It was a person in dorms that needed a job but was afraid to go do it by himself and just asked if I would go with him. And I literally had nothing to do at the time, so I did it. And I started working flag football as a, back in 2003, I would believe it was. And just kind of got addicted and fell in love with it. So that's kind of where I started and how I ended up where I'm at now.
Thank you for sharing, Armando and Sineyda. What about you?
My name is Sineyda Ortiz. I'm the Assistant Director of Fitness at the University of Texas at Arlington. I've been there for 3 years now, and I love it. And I started campus recreation, my journey, when I was one of those students that was always at the rec center all the time, like all the time. And what I mean by that is I would go and work out, I would take classes, I would be there in the evenings, I would go to intramural sports, I would participate as much as I could in campus recreation. And then one of my friends that worked at the rec center was like, you should definitely apply. And I'm like, no, I really can't. I don't want to. I already have another job. I don't have time. And she's like, well, wouldn't it be nice? You're already here all the time. Why don't you just come here and get paid? And I'm like, okay, you make a valid point. So I started my journey in campus recreation in facilities, cleaning the equipment. That was my job. That was my sole purpose. And then slowly, within a year of being hired at the Student Activity Center at IUSB in Indiana, they were like, you should become a building manager. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I loved it. And I would always see my boss, my supervisor, Amy Heckelman, who introduced me to this field. And I always said to her, you look very happy all the time working, and you look just this energy to you. And I wish I could be, like you and do what you do. And she said, well, you can go into the field of campus recreation. And that's when I was like, I have to do this. This is what I love, and this is what I enjoy doing. And since 2008, I started and been here, and I love it.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you both once again for being here. This is Hispanic Heritage Month, and we get the opportunity to celebrate all of the different cultures and ethnicities that fall within the Hispanic and the Latinx communities. So I'd like to ask each one of you what Hispanic Heritage Month means to you and what you personally do to celebrate. Armando, would you like to start once again?
Sure. Being up here in Manhattan, Kansas, there isn't a large Hispanic population in the area. There is in the state, just not in this part. So the day-to-day probably doesn't change much for me. So I don't probably do very much different than, say, in June or December or anything like that. Growing up, it was definitely more pronounced in the city of Dallas. So in these time frames, I think when we get to September and you see it on, whether it's the university doing an event or you see it on national television or whatever the case might be, kind of reminds me of some of the lessons my father taught me when he immigrated here to the country, and some of the challenges he had, and having to learn English and try to provide for a family without an education, things like that, and how fortunate I am to have more opportunities than he didn't have. So when we get to September, it just kind of reemphasizes that I have plenty of opportunities that he didn't have and that other family members don't have, and it's still in Mexico. So I try not to squander those opportunities and make the most of the life that I have and try to be the best positive influence I can be around here.
And Sineyda?
Well, personally, I don't do anything to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Months, to be honest. But during this month, when I see things on social media or on television, on the news, I am reminded of the sacrifices both my parents made, especially like my mom and dad. I couldn't imagine right now leaving everything behind to go search for something better just for their kids. Like that takes a lot of sacrifice. So I am reminded by the sacrifice they made in their lives to give me a better life. So I feel very blessed, very lucky, and to have the opportunities that I have, I try to make sure that I take advantage of them. And I always put my best foot forward when it comes to, you know, any opportunity that I'm giving because of my parents' sacrifice. Like both my parents worked 2 full-time jobs, you know, just to be able to make it, just to be able to provide for us and give us opportunities that they never had. And one thing that I always keep in mind is to be very humble throughout this journey because I'm very lucky. I'm one of the few that, you know, for my family that gets to live her life in the United States. And that's something that I don't take for granted.
We have all had such wonderful opportunities, and I love that you guys are sharing a little bit about your background and about what kind of inspires you to continue through the field. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on if you had a mentor who kind of maybe helped guide you a little bit more through the field, or who inspired you, someone that you've worked with? Sineyda?
I have to go back to when I first started in college.
Mm-hmm.
I had 3 people that I don't think up to this day they know the big significant impact that they made in my life. One will be Miss Cynthia Murphy Warlow at Indiana University South Bend. She encouraged me to join the Leadership Academy right after I graduated from high school, and that made a big impact in my life. Amy Heckelman, who introduced me to this field that I adore, like I completely love it. And then when I was going to undergrad, I saw this guy, and his name is Sam Centellas, and he was the director of student life at the time, and he was the first Latino I've ever seen in higher education. And that made a huge impact on me, because to see someone of my own kind be in that type of position gave me hope that one day I would be in that type of position. So those 3 people they were the pioneers that like instilled so much in me and continue to give me, like they still are, like I still talk to them, they're still my mentors, but they gave me so much to work with and so much to aspire to be, and I thank them every day. So it's very important. They're very important in my life, definitely.
And what about you, Armando?
You know, it's funny. I think about this, and as an undergrad, I didn't see anybody in any kind of a position to influence me that were of Latino origins. And throughout most of my career, there hasn't really been any strong Latino influence with me. Since I've gone into the field and become professional, then I've met different people that are of Latino origin. But really, the people who have had the most influence on me starts at the University of Texas with Darcy Dahl, Randall Ford, and Chad McKenzie. Chad's no longer in the field, but he works in Round Rock Parks and Rec. But most of what I've kind of come to understand and look at beyond, I guess the best way of explaining things is, we deal with officiating in sports, right? And a lot of times we like to say, what is the rule? Here's the black and white of what we're supposed to do, right? Mm-hmm. But if you really want to be successful at officiating and successful in life in general, in my personal opinion, you have to understand the intent behind everything, so that you don't get so caught up in black and white scenario that you can't think for yourself. And that was emphasized to me many times as I rose to the ranks in the intramural program down in Texas. And it's a lesson that stuck with me. And, you know, the one thing I try to train our intramural supervisors here at K-State is on that basic concept of, I want you to be an individual who is a problem solver and not a, you know, stressful worrying about what the actual problem is. To be able to think for yourself so that you can solve the issue and meet whatever we're trying to do. So I talk to them all the time, and I'm thankful for their mentorship for me. But if it wasn't for them, it definitely wouldn't be where I'm at, for sure.
Throughout our careers and our journeys, we have wonderful mentors who help and guide us. And I'm so happy to hear that you both had amazing people in your life who were able to guide you and teach you lessons as you were coming up in the field. As professionals now, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's just starting out or who's transitioning to a professional?
Sure, okay, I'll go, I guess. You know, I look back at my own experience, right? And I'm really fond of saying, you don't know what you don't know, okay? And throughout my entire life, like, I'm the only person from my family that's ever gone to college. Graduated and everything, just purely attended, first one. And when I got to school, there were certain things that I had no idea what you were supposed to do, how to register for class, how to do this, all beyond me. Same thing when it comes to going in this field. I actually got into made the decision to go into being a graduate assistant by a simple comment made to me, similar to something along the lines of like, you know, you should consider doing this because I think you'd be good at it, kind of thing. I'd never even thought of it, you know? And I find myself in situations less frequently now that I'm older, but when I was younger, where I didn't think of the big picture. I didn't think of what do I want to accomplish. And so if I was giving somebody advice on what they need to do, is it probably should take a step, just take a step, a little second to think about what they want to accomplish and what it's going to take to get to accomplish that, whatever the goals are. And when we set our goals and how to accomplish those goals, we have to really understand what we want. And usually you don't know what you want until you actually have a conversation with the mentor and what things are actually realistic for you, you know? So taking that step to figure out what you want and having a conversation with somebody to figure out how to accomplish that is the best advice I think you should take moving forward for people.
That's a wonderful piece of advice, Armando. Sineyda?
My biggest piece of advice, kind of leading the way, is to find a leader, a mentor, someone that you can seek help, guidance, and rely on, someone that you can pick their brain and say, hey, I'm planning on doing this. What are your thoughts? And they will be real. They will be very honest with you and upfront and give you the tools or try to have you like think of the things that you haven't thought about. So the leader, that mentor, just finding that leader and that mentor that's going to say, hey, take a step back. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Or maybe you're putting too much on your plates and your goal, your end goal is this. So therefore you need to stay focused. But if you go and do all these other things, you're going to get your plate really full. Someone that's always going to talk to you in a very honest way that's going to make you realize things that you probably haven't thought about. So having that mentor, having that leader within the university setting, the college setting, someone you aspire to be, you can ask them, hey, how can I get there? Could you show me? Could you lead the way? And find that someone that you can always go to, that's always a phone call away. I know I wouldn't be at where I'm at nowadays if it weren't for all the mentors that I have like a phone call away and ask them and pick their brain or say, hey, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think I should do this instead? And, you know, just having that person that you can solely just go to at any time of the day, and they will be able to give you that raw, honest opinion.
Thank you so much for sharing, both of you. All of these stories and your journeys that you shared are so wonderful to hear. And I want to thank both of you again for taking the time to come and share your stories with everyone from Region 4. This does conclude our interviews for Region 4. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Belinda.
Of course.